Good afternoon, traders. This is CloudChartist with your weekly Ichimoku chart wrap-up. Starting off with the weekly chart of crude, week ending March 15th. So looking at crude on the weekly, we see that this candle has closed over the Tenkan-sen. This is the sign of a potential, a real bullish reversal. As long as this candle can stay above the Tenkan-sen on a closing basis, not only do we have a uptrend here, but an uptrend that's not broken because this candle is still inside the last candle. We have a potential change of trend to the upside and support of the Tenkan-sen. So I'm looking for higher prices from crude here with support at the Tenkan-sen at 51.43. I'm expecting that price could go as high as the Kijun-sen at 69.79 on a weekly basis, but I do not think that's going to happen all at once, obviously. But we'll see how this weekly candle closes and go from there. Overall, this chart is still bearish under the cloud, very extended oversold. Although you see that the RSI is starting to come up from the depths. It's not out of oversold territory, but it has made a move up over the last 3 weeks. So, and that's about it for crude. Moving on, we have the ES. ES chart is fully bullish. It's a beautiful example of a fully bullish Ichimoku chart in that price is above the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen and the cloud. The Chikou span is free to move wherever it wants higher, and the cloud is rising in an uptrend. So for this week, we have support at the Tenkan-sen at 20, 28, 25, and plenty of room to move higher. So if we do get a pullback, I expect that it will be supported by the 20, 28, 25 level. You never know, but we'll see what happens. But fully bullish on the ES. Pardon me for making those wiggles. Next up, we have gold. Gold has sort of been between a rock and a hard place, or between a Tenkan-sen and a Kijun-sen. Gold was unable to get over the Tenkan-sen on a closing basis last week, so it's stuck between there and the Kijun-sen where it found support. So overall, the chart is bearish, but we're looking at some sideways price action here for gold until we can get a close above the Tenkan-sen, which is currently at 1237.60, or a close below the Kijun-sen, which is 1219.10. It's a little bit less important to get a close below the Kijun-sen because we already know that the chart is bearish, so it would just become bearish and without obvious support of the Ichimoku indicators. So moving from gold, we'll move to silver. Similar to the gold chart, but the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen are slightly different, and silver had some more bullish activity than gold last week, especially on Friday. So we see that the difference between this chart and the gold chart is that we did get a close over the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen, and the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen are at very similar levels. So off by 5 cents or thereabouts. So we could get some more bullish activity higher or lower. Right now it's just sideways under a bearish cloud. So we'll see what happens. As far as trend goes, we had this existing downtrend, and this candle was inside the last candle, so we still have a downtrend in place until we get a higher high and a higher low on a closing basis, on the weekly closing basis. Next up, we have the Russell. Very bullish chart. I have it quite zoomed in here, but if you saw the full chart, you would notice that this is a bull flag off a larger uptrend, and we broke out over this flat level that we've been having a hard time getting over, so this is the first time that we really broke out over that level. One could look at this as sort of an inverse head and shoulders type pattern, although technically an inverse head and shoulders pattern needs to be at the bottom of a trend to be a true inverse head and shoulders. It's usually a bottoming pattern after a downtrend, not after an uptrend. A lot of people make that mistake thinking that inverse head and shoulders can appear anywhere in a trend, and sometimes they do, and sometimes they work, but technically the true definition of an inverse head and shoulders occurs at the bottom of a trend as a bottoming pattern. So anyway, fully bullish chart over the Tenkan-sen and Kijun-sen over the cloud. The cloud, however, is going sideways and lower in the future. So that aspect of it is not as bullish as other charts, say the ES, for instance. So we could, if we don't just rip higher, we could get some more sideways consolidation, even sideways to down consolidation. We do have a cloud twist coming up, but that's not until the end of March, beginning of April, so we won't worry about that for the time being. Moving on, we have ZN, the 10-year futures, 10-year Treasury note futures. After a very bearish candle the week before last, we continued down and broke the Tenkan-sen support, and we're heading towards the flat Kijun-sen below. If we lose the Kijun-sen, we have flat cloud below and almost no support right in this area. So this week we have the edge of the cloud still, but next week we have almost no support here. So, but I'm jumping ahead because we haven't lost the Kijun-sen yet. So one thing that is providing support that may not be particularly obvious unless you know about the Ichimoku secret, the wonderful Chikou span, this red line here. If you don't know what the Chikou span is, I'll tell you. It is current price, so it's doing exactly what this price is doing, but 26 periods shifted into the past. So if you counted these candles, you'd find 26 candles back is here. And this is what the Chikou span is doing. It is finding support at the top of the cloud. So that is why this candle did not close on the lows, because the Chikou span came into the support of the cloud. It's always very handy to keep an eye on what the Chikou is doing, because the Chikou could be finding support or losing support, and it's a clue to what's going on with current activity, price action that you might not see right here. You'll see it in the past, and that's why the Chikou span exists and why you should not take it off your chart, as some people tend to do. They think it's just annoying, but it's extremely important. Okay, moving on to the 30-year Treasury bond, my personal favorite. We found that we had very nice uptrend here, and we put in a top, very bearish candle, changing the trend to the downside, and then we continued last week with another bearish candle, losing this Tenkan-sen support. Very important Tenkan-sen support, because if we had held this Tenkan-sen support, this would have been simply a pullback to breakout pattern, and price would be bouncing higher. In fact, it would have been a really nice long setup if we could have held the Tenkan-sen support and bought it, but we didn't. Price closed significantly below it, about almost 50% between the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen. So I am expecting lower prices from the 30-year Treasury bond, perhaps selling all the way down to 143.20 on the weekly basis. But you never know. I mean, we could get a reversal of risk, and we could get the next candle could close above the Tenkan-sen, and we could be back to the uptrend. But we'll see what happens. Overall, however, the chart is fully bullish except for this downtrend and except for losing the support of the Tenkan-sen. Otherwise, the Chikou is free to go higher if it wants to, has support down here at the candles, the cloud is rising, everything is bullish about this chart other than this downtrend going on right now. Moving on, we have the dollar. The dollar, as you all know, has been an extremely bullish uptrend. It's been holding the Tenkan-sen ever since it broke out of the cloud, and even before it broke out of the cloud, it got on top of the Tenkan-sen here and has stayed on top ever since. So if you wanted to be swing long the dollar, you could have easily stayed in the trade because the Tenkan-sen was never violated. So if I was swing long the dollar, that's what I would have been looking for a breach of the Tenkan-sen in the first place, and then in second place a actual candle close below the Tenkan Sen. So far the dollar is fully bullish, extremely overextended. As you can tell by the RSI, it's been extended since the summer. So very overextended, but that doesn't mean that we can't go higher, as you know. If we do come back to the Tenkan Sen and test it, it could propel the dollar even higher in a pullback to breakout pattern. So we'll see what happens if we do get a test of the Tenkan Sen. But overall, the dollar chart is fully bullish. Next up, we have the Nikkei. Nikkei is in a very nice uptrend, fully bullish above the cloud, rising cloud. We do have a semi-flat Tenkan Sen below and a flat Kijun Sen below, getting pretty kind of extended over the cloud, but not overbought. And I hope I said overbought on the dollar. Excuse me if I said oversold instead of overbought. Anyway, Nikkei is fully bullish, but we do have this prior area of resistance, so we'll see what happens this week if we can get over this prior area of resistance and move higher. We also want to see a more pronounced tipping up of the Tenkan Sen if we're bullish the Nikkei. Moving on to the NASDAQ, extremely bullish chart. This is just a beautiful bullish uptrend. Last week was also very bullish on shorter time frame charts. So I am looking for new highs on the NASDAQ. Moving on to coffee. Some of my followers ask me about coffee from time to time. I'm not really interested in trading it at the moment. It's just been consolidating in a range between the bottom of the cloud here, 160, and 170, 165 is capping it off. It hasn't even tested that level yet, but I expect further sideways action until this 170, 165 level is surpassed or until we lose the cloud. Pardon me. Moving on to soybeans, we have a downtrend here. Last week we tried to put in a reversal candle. This might be a potential reversal candle. We have a higher high. I can't actually tell looking at this if that's a high or low, but it did put in quite a topping tail. So until further notice, this chart is still bearish under the Tenkan Sen and the Kijun Sen and under the cloud. If we do move higher, the Chikou is going to run into these candles and have some issues, and then also run into the Tenkan Sen here. So we'll see what happens with soybeans, but bearish for the time being. Moving on, we have corn. Corn is just in a sideways consolidation pattern, similar to coffee, except it doesn't have cloud support. So it's just moving sideways between the Kijun Sen and the Tenkan Sen until 391.38 is closed above, or we lose the Kijun Sen support at 367.63. Next up we have Apple. Apple is fully bullish. Very bullish candle last week. Nice breakout from this consolidation flagging pattern. I am expecting higher prices for Apple. Now we have Google. Google is still in the cloud, has not been performing as well as Apple or some other tech stocks. It's been a laggard, but it's very encouraging if you're bullish on Google that it has changed trend to the upside. We have the Tenkan Sen pointing up. We have a flat Kijun Sen that we've closed above. So we still have cloud support, and we still have the cloud to deal with. Once we get up here, it's going to provide resistance. So, but if the broader markets and the NASDAQ and tech can continue upwards, I expect Google will have no problem testing the top of the cloud probably this week. And that's it for this week. Thanks for watching. Good luck trading, and see you next week for more weekly Ichimoku charts from CloudChartist. Thanks.